The cry within the darkness. The first scream didn't sound human. It sliced through the night like something mechanical, jagged, and wrong, yet it carried the pitch and terror of a woman pleading for her life. Arthur froze mid-step. His cane, steady until that moment, hovered just above the gravel path. Beside him, Daniel, his childhood friend of more than 70 years, gripped his arm. They were old men, yet the sound instantly stripped them of age, dragging them back to raw animal instinct. They shouldn't have been in the park that late. Both of them knew it. The lamps along the path flickered weakly, yellow halos swallowed by the shadows of the trees. The autumn wind whispered like dry paper against the branches. And beyond the perimeter fence, the city's noise faded into a low hum. Here, it was almost silence until the scream tore it apart. "Did you hear that?" Daniel's voice rasped, brittle with both disbelief and fear. Arthur swallowed hard. His throat felt like sand. "I heard it. God help me. I heard it." Then it came again. The same pitch, the same desperation, yet something was off. The cry was identical, each syllable placed precisely as before, as though someone had pressed replay on a recording. "Help me. Please, help me." The cadence was exact, unnervingly exact. Daniel's grip on Arthur's arm tightened. "That's no woman," he whispered. They stood, two bent silhouettes against the dim path, both aware that every bone in their old bodies urged them to leave. But curiosity, the same reckless hunger that had guided them through boyhood and wars and all the foolish nights in between, anchored them. Arthur tried to laugh, but it broke off halfway. Probably some prank, he muttered. Yet he didn't believe it. The scream erupted again. But this time, it wasn't alone. Others joined higher, lower, overlapping until the darkness ahead swelled with a chorus of the same plea, multiplied and layered. "Help me. Help me. Please, help me." Over and over, like a nightmare choir. The sound echoed off the trees, warping, filling the space until Arthur couldn't tell if it came from one direction or all of them. Daniel let out a broken sound between a curse and a prayer. "Arthur, we have to go." But their legs betrayed them, step by step, as though compelled by something outside themselves. They moved forward into the belly of the park. The lamps grew fewer, the shadows thicker. The cries seemed to recede, leading them deeper, like bait on a string. Leaves crunched beneath their shoes. The night air pressed heavy against their skin, damp and cold. Arthur's hand shook on his cane, though not from age this time. And then the cries stopped. The silence was worse. Arthur felt his heart hammering in his ribs. Too loud, too fragile. Daniel whispered, "Do you feel that? Like something watching us?" Before Arthur could answer, a shape detached itself from the trees. It was tall, too tall, lanky, limbs stretched wrong, bending where joints shouldn't bend. Its head scraped against the lowest branches, crowned with jagged antlers that seemed to grow out of its skull, twisting skyward like dead branches. His body was thin, impossibly thin, wrapped in skin that clung like old parchment. And the knit spoke. Not with a mouth, not with any movement of lips. The voice came from deep in its chest, a grotesque mimicry. "Help me. Please, help me." But now the words were fractured, breaking and blending, shifting in tone until Arthur staggered backward, bile rising in his throat. The thing was using their voices. Daniel's voice, pleading. Arthur's voice, desperate. Perfect imitations, thrown back at them, until the air was filled with their own terror echoing from that hollow frame. Arthur gripped Daniel's hand. Old men clutching each other like frightened boys. "We have to run," Arthur whispered, though his legs screamed with pain at the thought. The creature tilted its head, antlers scraping bark. Its hollow sockets seemed to drink in the dim light. And then, slowly, unnervingly, took a step forward. The ground seemed to groan beneath its weight, though its body looked too frail to weigh anything at all. Daniel's knees buckled. "It's a skinwalker," he gasped. The word fell from his lips with the finality of a curse. "God save us." Arthur had heard the stories, whispered when they were children. Creatures that wore voices like stolen masks. Beings that lured travelers into the dark. He had never believed them until now. The thing let out a sound that almost resembled laughter, though it was stitched from fragments of their own voices. A mocking patchwork. Arthur didn't think. He grabbed Daniel's arm and ran. They didn't make it far. The path twisted, swallowed by shadows. Their lungs burned, old bodies screaming for rest. Behind them, the sound followed those same voices, their own voices repeating, mocking, closing in. Arthur risked a glance back. The creature didn't run. It didn't need to. It moved with slow, deliberate steps, as if certain they couldn't escape. And maybe it was right. Daniel's breath hitched. He stumbled, nearly pulling Arthur down with him. Arthur caught him, heart in his throat. "Come on. Don't stop." But Daniel was trembling violently, his chest rattling with each gasp. His heart couldn't take this. Arthur knew it. He knew it and still pulled, still dragged, because stopping meant death or something worse. The trees thinned, clearing. Moonlight spilled across damp grass, pale and cold. For a moment, Arthur thought they might have a chance. Then the voices returned. This time, they weren't pleading. They were screaming. His own scream, Daniel's scream, multiplied, warped, filling the night until Arthur's ears rang with it. The sound came from everywhere above, behind, beneath, until he couldn't tell where the creature was. He turned, desperate. It was already there. At the edge of the clearing, its frame loomed, antlers catching the moonlight. Its limbs twisted, stretching unnaturally as though drawn by invisible strings. It spoke again, Arthur's voice this time, but not a plea. A whisper. "You will never leave." Arthur's legs gave out. He dropped to his knees, cane clattering to the ground. His breath came in ragged sobs. He felt Daniel clutching his shoulder, both of them trembling in the pale glow. They were old men. They had lived through wars, buried wives, outlasted friends, watched the world change and leave them behind. But nothing had prepared them for this. The creature stepped closer. Its antlers scraped the air, jagged and sharp. Arthur's mind screamed to run, but his body betrayed him. The weight of age, of fear, pinned him. The last thought he had before the darkness surged again was that the stories they'd laughed at, the myths they'd dismissed, had always been waiting here, waiting for them. And now, it had found them. Arthur's vision blurred. darkness and moonlight colliding in dizzy flashes as he forced himself back onto trembling legs. His cane lay somewhere behind him, abandoned, useless now. Daniel leaned heavily against his shoulder, his weight nearly toppling him. But Arthur held firm. He would not leave Daniel. Not now. Not when the abyss itself seemed to crawl out of the trees. The creature hadn't moved. Not yet. It lingered at the clearing's edge, as if savoring the sight of them two weary men, fragile as dry leaves, fumbling for escape. Arthur's chest burned. His body cried out to rest, but his mind screamed something louder. Survive. He pulled Daniel forward, stumbling across the grass, their steps uneven, clumsy, but determined. Behind them, the mimicry began again. This time, the voices carried no desperation. They were playful, mocking. Arthur, one voice crooned, in his own tone, stretched and distorted. Arthur, don't leave me. Then Daniel's voice, cracked but unmistakable, where are you going? Arthur, don't you want to help me? Arthur flinched with every syllable, the sound burrowing into his skull like nails. He tried to block it out, but it was his voice, his and Daniel's, twisted until he couldn't trust the air around him. Daniel choked on a sob. It knows our names. Dear God, it knows us. Arthur gritted his teeth. Keep moving. Don't listen. But how could they not? The creature's voices slithered between the trees, chasing them, circling them, sometimes near, sometimes far, sometimes whispering as though inches from their ears. And then, ahead, Arthur saw a faint glimmer of a lamppost, dim but steady, marking the return of the path. His heart leapt. If they could reach it, maybe, just maybe, they could find the way back to the park's entrance. Almost there, Arthur panted, dragging Daniel with all the strength he had left. But then, the laughter came. It wasn't human. It wasn't even animal. It was a patchwork of sound, layered with fragments of their own chuckles, twisted into a grotesque symphony. The clearing seemed to pulse with it, as though the ground itself mocked them. Arthur stumbled but forced himself on. They reached the path, gravel crunching underfoot, and for a moment hope surged through him. He clung to Daniel's arm tighter. We can make it. Daniel lifted his head, sweat glistening on his wrinkled brow. Arthur, look. Arthur followed his gaze. The lamppost flickered, and beneath it, no, within it, the creature stood. It hadn't walked. It hadn't run. It had appeared. One moment the path was empty. The next it was there, its gaunt frame stretched in the lamplight, antlers casting monstrous shadows across the ground. Arthur's breath caught in his throat. His knees wobbled. The hope that had flared inside him guttered like a dying flame. Daniel muttered, voice trembling, "It's toying with us." The creature tilted its head. From its hollow sockets, no eyes gleamed leadenly darkness. Then, in Arthur's voice, it whispered, "You're too old to run." Arthur's heart stuttered. His chest tightened, panic threatening to crush him. The lamppost flickered again, and the light died. Darkness swallowed them. Arthur's mind snapped back to another darkness decades ago, crouched in a muddy trench, bombs falling like gods tearing the sky apart. The same helplessness, the same deafening silence between explosions. Only this was worse. At least then, He had known the face of his enemy. Arthur. Daniel gasped, pulling him back. Move. Please. We have to move. Arthur obeyed, blind in the dark, guided only by Daniel's trembling grip. Their steps scraped against the gravel, each one too loud, too fragile. Behind them, the mimicry shifted. Now the voices weren't pleading or mocking. They were sobbing. Great, heaving sobs in Daniel's tone, in Arthur's tone, echoing the despair clawing inside them. Arthur wanted to cover his ears, to shut it out, but the sound wasn't outside anymore. It was inside his skull, reverberating against bone. Stop! Daniel cried suddenly. Arthur froze. His heart thudded so hard he thought it might burst. What is it? Daniel pointed ahead, his hand shaking violently. There. Do you see it? Arthur squinted. A faint light shimmered between the trees, not the sickly yellow of a park lamp, but softer, warmer, like candlelight. Hope sparked again. Fragile but real. Maybe it's someone's house. Maybe. Or maybe it's another trick. Daniel cut in, voice sharp with terror. Arthur hesitated. He wanted to believe in rescue, in a way out. But the creature had already shown it could warp light, twist sound, bend the night itself. What if this glow was just another lure? Behind them, the sobbing voices rose higher, louder, until Arthur thought his skull would split. He didn't have a choice. We have to try, he said, gripping Daniel's arm tighter. They stumbled toward the glow. As they neared, the light grew clearer. It wasn't a lamp, nor a house. It was a lantern, hanging from a crooked branch, swaying gently though no wind stirred. Beneath it lay a bench, old, rusted, its paint peeling, and on the bench sat a woman. Arthur's chest seized. She was thin, her hair tangled, her dress torn. Her face was hidden in shadow, but her shoulders shook as though she were crying. Daniel stiffened beside him. The voice. He whispered. The woman we heard. Arthur swallowed hard. Could it be? Had there truly been someone, all along, crying for help? He took a cautious step forward. Miss, are you all right? The woman stilled. Slowly, too slowly, she lifted her head. Arthur's blood froze. Her face was a blur. Not in shadow. Not obscured but blurred. Like an image half erased. Features smearing as though reality couldn't decide what she should look like. Her mouth opened. Arthur braced for a scream. But what came out was worse. Arthur. Daniel. Arthur. Daniel. Their names. Repeated in perfect unison. Spilling from her lips like a chant. Daniel staggered back, clutching his chest. No. No. God. No. Arthur pulled him away, heart hammering. It's not real. It's not. The woman rose. Her limbs bent wrong. Too long. Too thin. And then, with a sickening crack, her blurred face split open. Stretching. Tearing. Arthur couldn't breathe. His vision swam. The lantern above her flickered and went out. Darkness crashed back. They ran. Arthur didn't know how. His knees screamed. His chest burned. Every step was agony. But he ran. Daniel clung to him, half stumbling, half dragged, both of them moving on sheer terror. Behind them, the voices multiplied again. But now they weren't just echoes. They were screams. Dozens, maybe hundreds, layering the air until the forest itself seemed to wail. Arthur's head pounded. He couldn't think. He could only run, feet slipping on damp earth, breath tearing ragged from his throat. And then sudden silence. The screams cut off as though someone had thrown a switch. Arthur stumbled to a halt, chest heaving. Daniel collapsed to his knees beside him, gasping for air. The silence pressed heavy, suffocating. Arthur looked around, eyes straining. Trees loomed on every side, their branches skeletal against the night sky. No light, no path, no creature. Where are we? Daniel whispered, voice broken. Arthur shook his head. I don't know. I don't. A whisper cut through the silence. Not behind them. Not ahead. From inside them. You'll never leave. Arthur's breath hitched. He turned wildly, searching. But there was nothing, only the darkness. Endless and watching. Daniel clutched his arm, his nails digging in. Arthur, it's inside us. Do you hear it? It's inside us. Arthur wanted to deny it. But the voice had been in his head, curling around his thoughts, stealing his breath. And worse part of him feared it was right. Arthur gripped Daniel's arm tighter, though his hand trembled so violently he could barely hold on. Their bodies were failing, their lungs collapsing with every breath. But the real terror was not in the exhaustion. It was in the realization that the forest itself seemed to have shifted. The path was gone. The lamps, the benches, the familiar landmarks of the park all swallowed in an ocean of trees. Each trunk looked the same, stretching up like prison bars toward a starless sky. Daniel wheezed. His chest rattled, thin skin glistening with sweat. Arthur, we're not in the park anymore. Arthur's jaw clenched. His instinct screamed to argue, to deny, to cling to some shred of sanity. But his eyes told him the truth. They weren't in the park. Or if they were, the park had been consumed, devoured by something older, darker. A low creak echoed through the trees. Not wind. Not branches. Footsteps. The creature was moving. Slowly. Deliberately. Arthur pulled Daniel into the shadow of a tree, pressing them both against the rough bark. He could feel Daniel's heartbeat pounding through his sleeve, fast and uneven, like a trapped bird. The footsteps drew closer. And then came the voices. This time, they weren't pleas, or sobs, or laughter. They were memories. Arthur froze as he heard his mother's voice, clear and warm, calling him in from play on a summer's evening. He hadn't heard that voice in more than 60 years. But it was perfect, every cadence, every inflection. Then his late wife's voice, soft and broken. Arthur, don't leave me. He felt the words slice into him, deeper than any plea of help ever could. His chest ached with old grief, raw as the day he'd buried her. Beside him, Daniel whimpered. His eyes glistened in the dark. It's my Sarah. Arthur, I hear her. Arthur shook his head violently, whispering, it's not her. It's not real. But Daniel's tears fell freely. It is her. It's her voice. Arthur. She's calling me. Before Arthur could stop him, Daniel stepped forward, leaving the shadow of the tree. Daniel, Arthur hissed, reaching out. But his old friend was already moving, stumbling toward the sound. The voices grew louder, weaving around them in perfect mimicry of loved ones lost. Sarah, Margaret, friends long dead, the voices of childhood, a family, of everyone they had buried over the years. Arthur's heart broke as he watched Daniel falter into the open. The forest bent with whispers, a choir of the dead calling his friend home. And then Arthur saw it. The creature stood just beyond the trees, barely visible, its gaunt frame silhouetted against the thin smear of moonlight. Its antlers stretched like jagged shadows, its body impossibly tall, impossibly wrong. Daniel stumbled closer. His face was streaked with tears, his arms half raised as though reaching for something unseen. Sarah. Arthur's blood ran cold. The voices weren't guiding Daniel. They were luring him. Daniel, stop. Arthur's own voice cracked, desperate. It's not her. It's that thing. But Daniel didn't listen. He took another step. The creature moved. Not a stride. Not a leap, just a shifting. A distortion. As though the distance between it and Daniel collapsed in an instant. One moment it was yards away. The next it loomed directly before him. Arthur staggered forward, his old legs screaming. No. Daniel looked up. For a heartbeat, Arthur saw his friend's face illuminated by pale moonlight lined. Fragile, but full of hope. Then the creature bent low, antlers scraping bark, and its hollow sockets fixed on Daniel. The forest filled with a sounding unholy chorus. Daniel's voice multiplied 100-fold, screaming in agony. Arthur's cry tore from his throat as he lunged. Too late. Too slow. The sound cut off. Daniel was gone. The clearing was empty except for Arthur and the towering, antlered figure. Arthur fell to his knees. His cane lay somewhere far behind him. Useless now. He pressed his hands into the dirt, gasping, shaking, his heart breaking open inside his chest. Daniel was gone. His friend, his brother in all but blood, swallowed whole by the nightmare. The creature tilted its head, watching him. Then it spoke. Arthur. His name, in Daniel's voice. Arthur's stomach lurched. His hands curled into fists. Give him back. He roared, though his voice cracked with both age and grief. The creature straightened, its antlers stretching higher than the trees. In perfect mimicry of Daniel's tone, it whispered, Arthur, help me. Arthur's vision blurred with tears. He wanted to believe, wanted to rush forward, to tear Daniel free, but he knew. Deep down, he knew. Daniel was gone. And now the creature wanted him, too. He staggered to his feet. His body felt like stone, each bone heavy, each muscle on the brink of collapse. But some fire, some spark of defiance, kept him upright. Not yet, he whispered, voice ragged. You'll not take me yet. The creature took a step. The ground groaned beneath its weight. Arthur turned and ran. He didn't know how long he ran. Time fractured in the darkness, stretching, breaking. His legs burned, his lungs seared, his vision pulsed with black spots. But still he ran, driven by something beyond survival rage. Grief, stubbornness older than the bones carrying him. The forest seemed endless. Trees repeated like mirrors, each trunk identical, each shadow familiar. He no longer knew if he moved forward or only circled within the beast's cage. But then saw it. A light. Faint. Distant. But real. Arthur's heart leapt. He forced his legs faster, stumbling, tripping, catching himself again and again. His breath came in ragged sobs, but he pushed forward, driven by that fragile glow. As he neared, the light sharpened. A gate, iron, tall and rusted, standing in the middle of the forest as though torn from another world. Beyond it, faint lamps flickered, warm and steady. Civilization. Safety. Arthur threw himself against the gate, clutching the bars with trembling hands. Help! Somebody. His voice cracked, raw with desperation. Please. The lamps beyond flickered but did not vanish. They were steady, real. Arthur sobbed with relief. He shook the gate, rattling it, but it didn't open. His frail arms strained against the iron, but the lock held firm. Behind him, the forest creaked. He froze. Slowly, painfully, he turned. The creature stood just beyond the trees. Its body was closer now, clearer. Its skin stretched like parchment, ribs protruding, limbs long and bent. Its face, if it could be called that, was a hollow cavity, a black maw beneath the crown of jagged antlers. Arthur pressed himself against the gate. His breath came in shallow gasps. The creature stepped forward. Arthur gripped the iron until his knuckles split. Stay back, he rasped. Stay away from me. The creature tilted its head, and from its hollow chest came a sound. Daniel's voice. Arthur, don't leave me here. Arthur's knees buckled. His heart clenched, the grief tearing him open again. The voice repeated, softer now, breaking. Arthur, please, help me. Arthur shut his eyes. He pressed his forehead against the cold iron. Tears spilled down his cheeks. I'm sorry, Daniel. Can't. The voices multiplied. His wife, his mother, his friends layered upon Daniel's until the forest shook with them. All calling him, all pleading. Arthur screamed. The sound ripped from him, raw and animal, echoing through the trees. When he opened his eyes, the creature stood inches from the gate, its antlers scraping the iron. It leaned close, its hollow face mere breaths from his own. And in Arthur's voice, it whispered, "You belong to me." Arthur clung to the iron gate as though it were the last anchor to the world of the living. His fingers bled where rust bit into skin, but he held tighter, refusing to let go. The creature loomed, its antlers casting broken shadows, this hollow face empty yet suffocating. "You belong to me," it repeated, in his voice, the sound vibrating against his bones. Arthur shook his head violently. "No, not me. Not yet." The creature tilted, as though studying him. Its frame bent forward until the iron bars pressed between its ribs. Arthur smelled it now, a stench of earth and decay, of something pulled too long from the grave. Behind its form, the forest pulsed. Shapes moved in the darkness. Flickers of faces he knew, blurred and shifting. Daniel's outline among them, hand raised as though reaching. His wife's shadow, her dress billowing in a phantom wind. His mother, his brothers, all those he had buried. flickering like images on shattered glass. Arthur's heart ached. The longing nearly broke him. "Don't listen," he whispered to himself. "It isn't them." But part of him wondered what if it was. What if death had always worn this shape? Waiting. Calling. What if Daniel was there? Truly trapped. Truly pleading. The creature pressed closer. Its antlers scraped the gate with a screech that sent shivers into Arthur's marrow. "Arthur," it whispered, in Daniel's tone. "Why did you leave me?" Arthur's tears burned down his cheeks. He slammed his fists against the bars. "Because I couldn't save you. I'm old. Damn it. I'm weak." His voice cracked into a sob. "And I'm sorry, Daniel. I'm so sorry." The forest stilled. Even the whispers seemed to pause. Waiting. The creature straightened. For the first time, it did not mimic. Its chest expanded, ribs cracking outward, and from the hollow of its body came a new sound, low, rumbling, primal. Not words. Not imitation. Its own voice. It was hunger. Arthur staggered back from the gate. His body trembled, his legs barely holding. He knew then there would be no rescue, no lanterns, no lamps, no escape. Only him, the gate, and the thing that had hunted his kind for centuries. And yet something steadied inside him. A strange calm. He was old. His body was nearly done. But he had lived. Wars, griefs, joys, decades of ordinary mornings and extraordinary losses. He had walked farther than he had ever expected. And though death had come for him in a monstrous shape, he would not crawl. He would not beg. Arthur lifted his chin. His voice shook but held. "Then take me. But you will never have my soul." The creature froze. Its antlers tilted, as though it had not expected defiance. Arthur's chest heaved. "You can wear my voice. You can mock my face. But I am Arthur Hale, son of Thomas, husband of Margaret, friend of Daniel. You are nothing but shadow." The creature hissed, the sound like wind tearing through broken reeds. His form shuddered, antlers twisting higher. Arthur pressed his palms flat against the gate. "I will not walk to you. If you want me, you will drag me. And even then, I will not be yours." For a heartbeat, silence hung. The forest itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the creature lunged. Its body slammed against the iron with a force that shook the ground. The bars groaned, rust raining down, but they held. Antlers crashed against steel, claws scraping sparks. Arthur stumbled back, but he did not fall. The creature shrieked a chorus of voices, hundreds at once, shattering the night. Daniel's scream, his wife's cry, his own sob, all woven together into a wall of sound. Arthur clutched his chest, pain ripping through him. His heart thudded too fast, too hard. He knew it was the end. But he stood. "Not yours," he rasped. The creature struck again, and again, each impact rattling the gate. Cracks spiderwebbed through the iron. The lamps beyond flickered. Arthur closed his eyes. He thought of Margaret's laugh, the way she used to hum in the kitchen. He thought of Daniel's hand on his shoulder during the war. He thought of summer skies, of autumn leaves, of every moment that had made life worth carrying. The next impact came. The gate buckled. Arthur's knees gave. His vision narrowed. The last thing he saw was the creature's antlers, jagged against the night. And then light. Blinding. Sudden. The lamps beyond the gate flared, searing white, brighter than noon. The iron bars shone, glowing as though lit from within. The creature reeled back, shrieking, its form convulsing, antlers thrashing. The light poured through the forest, cutting shadow from root and branch, searing away the faces, the whispers, the blur of the dead. Arthur collapsed to the ground, the brightness washing over him. He could no longer hear the shrieks, only silence. When he woke, it was morning. The park stretched around him, ordinary once more. The lamps stood silent, the path clear. The trees swayed gently in the breeze. Arthur lay on the gravel path, his cane inches from his hand. His body ached in every joint, but it was real ache, familiar ache. He pushed himself up slowly. His breath caught as he looked around. Daniel was gone. The memory hit him like a blade. His friend was gone, taken, swallowed. No trace remained. Arthur's eyes stung. He whispered into the morning air, "I tried. Daniel. I swear I tried." No answer came. Only the rustle of leaves, the chirp of distant birds. Arthur tightened his grip on his cane and forced himself to stand. His legs wobbled, but he stood. One step, then another. The park stretched empty before him, bathed in the gentle light of dawn. It looked so harmless now, so ordinary, as though the night's horror had never existed. But Arthur knew better. The creature was real. The stories were true. And it had taken his dearest friend. He walked slowly toward the park's exit, each step heavy with grief. But beneath the sorrow lay something else, something the creature had not taken. Defiance. It had not won. It had not broken him. And when his own end came, whether by age, or by shadow, or by the antlers in the dark, would face it the same way. Standing, Arthur stepped into the morning light, cane tapping against the path. His heart ached, but it beat still, steady and human. And behind him, in the whispering trees, the echoes faded,